Hi, everybody. This is Erica from In the Company of Cards. I was going to come on yesterday and got caught up in life and ended up not coming on. Um, Thanks to those of you who watched and commented on video that I did here with Violetta on Sunday. I'll be on her channel in a couple of weeks. That's Psychic Violetta. Um, so if you watch if you watch that video, you saw that she complimented me on my new look, which I was not going to say anything about, but since she brought it up, I explained it. So I'm going to explain it to those of you who did not see the live, which is that I am not trying to look cute. This is not some kind of fashion statement. I cut my hair, as you know, myself. And so I had mistakenly trying to sort of finish it up, and I thought I did a great job and was just sort of just touching it up, but forgot that I had taken the guard off. So a few weeks ago, I sort of did a little gouge in my hair, but it wasn't that bad. It grew back, I mean, in like 2 weeks, which was great. And so I thought, well, never again. That's not going to happen again. And so Sunday, right before the video with Violetta, I decided to touch it up because, now that it's short, you kind of have to keep it looking nice. And the literal same thing happened on the other side, except way worse. I was finished, everything looked great. And then I looked in the mirror and I said, oh, I just think I could just touch this one. And I forgot that I had taken the guard off. And you should see. I mean, you shouldn't see because and as I said on the last video, if I were 7 or 17, I would have screamed, cried, and maybe shaved my whole head. But because I am almost 70, I had the presence of mind to remind myself that hair grows back, but that I would need to do something in the meantime. I have had my hair long, I've had my hair short, all kinds of different ways over the years, and I happen to keep head wraps and I know how to do them. So I thought, well, I'll just sport a wrap until I am presentable again. I am not trying to be Miss Cleo. For those of you who know who she is back in the day, God rest her soul. This is still me. With my mother used to say to us kids when we were little, she would say, "Put on your thinking caps," and we would mime that we were putting on thinking caps. Consider this my literal thinking cap as I read cards for you. So I have a bunch. So I will be styling and profiling, as they used to say, in my rap. Anyway, the news has been just, and I guess that's probably part of why I wasn't there yesterday. I just needed a day off. But there are a few things that I would like to look at. So somebody had asked me on a previous live whether I thought the war would be over in the proverbial 2 weeks, that the felon likes to say 2 weeks. We've had several 2 weeks, many 2 week periods come and go since he first proclaimed the 2 week period, and we are still in the war. And the viewer had asked me whether I thought that the war would extend to 2027, maybe 2028, and I had said yes. Um, I know that today the felon, after again selling wolf tickets about who he was going to blow up, said that he had that the ceasefire had been indefinitely extended, meaning, sort of peace while the details were worked out. But Iran said, "What? What truce? There is no truce, and the strait is closed." So the felon has really painted himself into a corner, and I thought that I would just look at the war just to see what I can see. And so I'm going to use the scythe as the significator because that's the card that you would use to represent war, or that I would use anyway, to represent war, and just to see what it can show us um, about the war moving forward. Okay. I decided just for variety's sake to use a reading cloth, which is just, a linen napkin. Um, I have reading cloths, but I like a black field. So it kind of keeps me focused. Okay, so here is the card that represents the war, and I'm gonna pull other cards. Um, and I think I might pull some clarifiers. Right, so, we know that part of the reason that there is a war in the first place is because we are the vassal state of Israel, and Bibi Netanyahu said, "Come fight." And so the felon said, "Okay." And so here we are. We also know that meant to be a distraction from the e-files. But anyway, we have the house, we have the stork, we have the scythe, we have the letter, and we have the woman. So, I just basically asked, what message do the cards want to give us about the war? Less about when is it going to end, because I do think we are in this for the long haul, as is always the case when we enter into some conflict in the Middle East. It's always a long stay. Now, the White House, of course, would like to put a happy spin on it. Historic positive change. That's why the felon who cannot say, well, he does say it, but we won or it's over. He couldn't say either of those things. So instead he says, oh, it's an indefinite truce. That's to put the pretty spin on it because he's worried about the midterms. Um, the party is lost. The Republican Party is lost if they lose the midterms, which they are going to lose the midterms. And oh, in case we forgot, Epstein, Epstein, Epstein. So I pulled clarifiers, as you saw, on the site, which is the war itself. And we have the tower, the book, and the birds. Here's the thing. So here's the war. We are alone in this. Everyone whom he's asked to pony up and, go in there with us have said, yeah, thank you, no. So we are sort of on an island, alone, and he doesn't know what to do. And this means that people are talking about how bad he is at this whole thing. People are talking and he knows it. Now, the fourth card is interesting. It's the letter, and you may have heard me say it's in some ways the most frustrating card in the deck because it could be anything in writing, but it also means that it's one of the most flexible, if not the most flexible cards in the deck. So the clarifiers for it are the young man, the key, and the bouquet. I still think that this is the felon saying, in terms of votes and the Republican Party keeping control, I'm going to be seen as this hero if I just declare that there is this indefinite truce, that's all I need to do. That's the answer. And it'll be a gift. Well, he's delusional is the point. I think that's the message of the cards is he doesn't know what he's doing. He is speaking very off the cuff, whatever comes to his mind. We already know he was thrown out of the Situation Room, so it's not like he really knows what's going on. He doesn't. He's just saying what he hopes will happen. And then this fifth card of late is always Epstein related stuff. And we have the clarifiers, which are the rider, the fox, and the moon. So moving forward, there will be information that will distract from the war, to the extent that one can or should be distracted from a war, which is related to the Epstein situation. Um, there are things that are going to come out that have been ferreted out by, I would say, by journalists probably, um, that are going to really damage his reputation. Now, currently, not only is the war theoretically a distraction from Epstein, it's also true that he and his family are making money hand over fist as a result of the war. Through sales of drones, through stock market manipulation. I mean, they, in a lot of ways, don't want the war to end. And then again, look who's doing the negotiating. His friend Wyckoff, who's a golf course guy, and the eternal, ever present, vampiric Jared. So this is just, it will drag on. Iran is in the catbird seat, as I've mentioned before. They now know it. I don't know if you've seen those Lego videos, but those Lego videos are coming out fast and furiously. And even though the accounts have been closed, I don't know what account they've closed because I've seen a lot of new Lego videos coming out from Iran that are really gut punches to the felon. So Iran, as I said, is in the catbird seat. The felon has no way out. He doesn't know what to do. We know that the troops are not even getting enough food to eat, which is obscene. And there's just no way out for him. So there is no indefinite truce. Um, this will just drag on and on and on and on. And I hate to say that, but I do think that that's the case for the time being. Now, speaking of the war, so I want to move to JD Vance because so in regard to the war, we know that he was heading up supposedly the negotiation team. And then they failed, right? So they all came back. And then there was the negotiation team was going to go back, but he was not going to go. Vance was being kept back here. And so Wyckoff and the vampire son-in-law, Kushner, went over to Pakistan to continue the negotiations or to start them up again. And then next thing you know, we hear that Vance has gone back to Pakistan on a later plane. Because I am sure Vance does not love the fact that he's being sidelined by the felon, made to look ineffective and inefficient. Not that he's not, but anyway, by the felon. So so apparently all three of them were going to be back in Pakistan. Negotiations were going to gear up again. But then I just heard that um, even though he's over there, he will not be in the negotiations. And the reason being cited is security concerns. What? So I just want to know what's up with Vance. We will use the young man for Vance. I just want to know, is he being sabotaged? I think he is by the felon, sidelined. But what about him in relation to the war and the negotiation process? Because there's so many different mixed messages. So let's look for him in regard, again, specifically, not looking at him in relation to Erica Kirk or anything else right now. Usha, none of that. I just want to know what's going on with him as far as the negotiation in this war is concerned. Okay, so we're going to use the young man, and that will be Vance. to do a reading in a little bit, so this won't be a long video. Um, but this Vance, oh, they have the card for the war. Look at that. Yeah. Okay. So we have again the White House, which of course Vance wants. We have the card for war, the scythe, but I don't think it stands for the war. I think it's something else. We have Vance in the middle, we have the felon, and we have the anchor. So here's what I think. Uh, Remember, the felon really is not thrilled with the idea of anyone succeeding him. Anyone, as he would say, as he would think of it, riding his coattails. So, in terms of the White House, I do think he is trying to crush Vance's chances. Even though should the felon leave early, Vance will take that spot. But people will remember what's going on now, not to mention who's going to want him for 28? Nobody, but the felon wants to make sure of that. So I think this is the felon trying to Vance's chances of getting of being in the White House on his own steam. We have the felon mirroring the scythe. And then, in case we were not sure, we have the anchor. So I think this is the felon trying to sink Vance. Uh, and it's interesting because everybody who does this work, all of my friends in this work, we all say, we get it. We understand that the line of succession is that should something happen to the felon, Vance would take over. But what we don't see is Vance, under his own steam, being the president for longer than the duration of this term. We all see the felon not fulfilling the full term. We all see Vance taking over, but we don't see him holding the office post 2028 election. So this is all consistent with that. The shine, I think, is off that rose. I suspect that his handler, what's the guy's name? You know who I mean. The South African, is he South African? The can't remember his name. Senior moment. But anyway, I don't think that I think that the bloom is off the rose and that they are casting around the 2025 bunch, casting around for who else they can get behind because Vance really is a dud. All right, I might look at one more thing. Oh, okay. So I read this article and it was on MS Now, and whoever is doing their writing for them doesn't really seem to be in line with the more liberal orientation of that network relative to, a CNN or a CBS. And I say that because, so for example, this particular thing I want to talk about speaks about the fact that Marjorie Taylor Greene is bringing up, resurrecting all of the controversy around the supposed um, uh, unaliving attempt against the felon, where his ear was supposedly clipped. And we've all seen that ear since. Not a scar, not a chunk missing, nothing. As ears go, there's nothing wrong with it except that it's attached to the felon's head. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is saying something doesn't smell right. You think, Marjorie? She wants to know why haven't we learned more about Thomas Crook? He is the one who's accused of this attack. Why is nobody talking about any of this? Why has no information been released? And so this MS Now article was accusing Marjorie Taylor Greene of floating a conspiracy theory. Excuse me, but any thinking person would have questions about that supposed attempt. People did die, but a lot of us who are in our right minds believe that it was a false flag operation, that in order to make it look realistic, people were unalived. but that it was staged and that the felon was in on it, allegedly and for entertainment purposes only. So I thought it was just really odd that MS Now was sort of positing it that way, as though Marjorie Taylor Greene was out of her mind to be raising this question. But anyway, I don't think she's out of her mind. Uh, I want to know whether what she's saying will gather steam. Because why would it gather steam now as opposed to before is the fact that there are a lot of felon voters who have buyer's remorse and are starting to question everything. And I've said many times when the revolution happens, you're going to be surprised at who's on the right and the left of you. And a lot of them will be former supporters of his who say, wait a minute, you know, something doesn't add up. So let's use again the scythe. We'll give the scythe a workout. That will stand for that supposed unaliving attempt. And let's just see what we can see around it. Will the controversy gather steam? Will people demand to know what really happened? Let's see. And this will be my last question for today, as I have a reading. Someone. Again, if you'd like a reading with me, just send me an email and we can arrange it. Um, so we have the book, we have the woman, this time it stands for Marjorie Taylor Greene. We have the Butler incident, we have the mountain, and we have the fish. So she's saying, why aren't we being told? This is about things that are being hidden. Why are they being hidden? What are we not being told? This is the attempt. And the fourth card, which is I can mirror with her, is the mountain. She feels like we're being stonewalled, and she wants to know what it's all about. And with fish, now obviously, it raised a lot of money for the felon and all of that, but I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is trying to stir up the disaffected base, right, who have now turned against the felon. This card now stands for emotion. And I think she is stirring it up. And I think that's great. And I'm going to look at that stirred up energy. And the clarifiers of this stirred up energy are the lily, the anchor, and the letter. Which, again, the letter. Interesting. Uh, Okay, so this is that stirred up energy of people saying, yeah, wait a minute, why have we not heard more about that? Why isn't in every moment the felon shouting from the rooftops how brave he was to escape, whatever? Um, but this is the felon who is older by the minute, more doddering and delusional by the minute. Um, I think that this, in addition to so much else, like, I don't know, war, a potential draft, the tariff money that probably is in his coffers somewhere, not to be retrieved, even though the law has said pay it back. The courts have said pay it back. I think all of this will sink him in the polls, sink his party in the polls. So do your part, girl, meaning Marjorie Taylor Greene. Yes, ask those questions. I think that's great. All right, listen. Sorry it's so short. Sorry I wasn't here yesterday. I love you all. I am so grateful for all your support, for your kind words about my hair mishap. Um, and I will be here tomorrow night with Lena, as usual. It's Wednesday, so will be doing our Worldview 360 live. Please come. It's at 6 p.m. Pacific, which is 9 p.m. Eastern. If you're somewhere else, figure it out. What can I tell you? And we'll be here for an hour just talking. We won't be reading cards or anything, but we would love for you to come and be with us and talk amongst yourselves, talk to us while we discuss some of the issues of the day. So I will see you all here tomorrow night, and I really appreciate all your support. Thanks so much. See you soon.